Chapter 13. Earth. Hannah rushed to the kitchen table for breakfast. Mom made something special this morning, pancakes and strawberries. It's not often she could do this. They lived far from the city in her papa's cabin. It was a simple life, but a good one. There was no electricity, running water, or TV. Hidden deep in the woods, everyone left them alone. She sat down and ate as if there was no tomorrow, with honey to sweeten it. Her mom smiled while she pulled Hannah's long red hair into a pigtail so no food would get into it. "Next week, you'll be 11 years old. Any idea what you'd like to do?" asked Mom. "I'd like to go to the city and see Uncle Tommy," she said, hoping for her mother's approval. "That's over 20 miles away. You'd have to wake up really early to get there and avoid the Warren Patrol." "Wake up, Hannah." "Hannah, wake up. We only have 10 miles to go," said the shadowed voice. Hannah woke up and looked around the room. After not seeing anything, she concluded it was the voice in her head again. She had spent the night in an old school while Warren patrols went by. This was Earth. The Warrens' homeworld was a much darker place, so they mostly came out at night. Hannah got up and put her things together in her backpack. As she walked through the school, she saw an old piano. She stood still, staring at it, her mind flooded with memories. "Hannah," said the voice, "I got you up late. We have to go." She ignored him, walked over and sat at the bench. She laid her fingers out on the ivory keys to measure them off. Then she began to play. The music echoed through the halls. "It's beautiful. Who taught you how to play?" asked the voice. "My papa," she responded without missing a note. She needed this to get her mind off what happened. She needed to soothe her mind before leaving. The easiest way to Atlanta was just to follow the highway signs. Her shadow couldn't help seeing all the painted barns. "See Rock City," he said out loud. "Some sort of tourist thing," said Hannah. "You can see far away from there." "You've been there?" "No. The Warren have their base up there. Papa said don't even go near it," she said, skipping along. She looked up to see the street sign. It was painted with a phrase in a different language. "What is that?" she asked herself. The voice spoke up. "Lasciate ogni speranza, voi cintrate," from an ancient book called Dante's Inferno. "How do you know this?" "I used to live on this planet a long time ago." "So long ago? And you don't know what Rock City is?" "I haven't been here in a long time either. These cities are a strange new wonder." Hannah zigzagged through the rusting cars and started to go over the bridge. "Warren Patrol, get under the bridge," the voice commanded. "I don't see it," she replied. "Get under the bridge now." She jumped over the side and laid down on the steel support beam in the corner. A large shadow came in from one side of the bridge and went to the other. It buzzed with the sound of shorting electricity, and she could feel the static in the air. After a few minutes, the voice told her it was all clear. For a couple more hours, she walked and finally reached her uncle's underground home. "This is a strange place," remarked the voice. "It was an underground shopping mall. The street is above us," she said, pulling a gate up to a store. Two little lights flicked on, and a squeaky voice yelled out, "Hannah!" A dozen more little lights turned, and a half-dozen little robots came out of the dark, each one proclaiming their joy at seeing Hannah. "Hi, Hector, Robo, Robbie. I missed you all." She sat on the floor and began to hug each one of them. After she finished, she looked around with a confusing look. "Where's Uncle?" Hector's head looked down. He looked up and grabbed her hand. "I think we need to show you." They went back out to the street and walked around the corner. In the street stood 100 mannequins, all dressed up in military fatigues. They all looked like they were ready for battle. In the center was an old tank. Her uncle lay silent behind the machine gun on the top. "Is he dead?" she cried out. "Yes, he thought he could take on the Warren himself," replied Hector. "I'm sorry, Hannah," said the voice. "Looks like he went mad." Hector looked up. "I think you need to go back home with your mother." She fell to the ground. "She's gone." A dog came around the corner and ran straight into her arms. "Simon!" she yelled with joy. She held on to him as if she would never let go. Later that night, Hector and the other robots wanted to cheer her up, so they threw a party. They began to play music and dance. The dog ran around and barked. Hannah had the biggest smile she had in years. Suddenly, all the robots' eyes turned red. The music turned off and Hector whispered, "Warren Patrol, hide in the back. We'll put out the candles." "Strange that I haven't sensed this," commented the voice as Hannah walked quickly into the back room. After an hour, the robots said it was clear and restarted the party. They played on until Hannah fell asleep. The next morning, the robots woke her up to go looking for food. Uncle would get food and hide it in different places around town, just in case the mall became unsafe. He also had small gardens on the rooftops of several buildings. The best way to get around town was by horse, but since they all ran off, she had to use a bicycle. The robots rode in a basket towed behind. Safe areas were painted with a small triangle, just in case a patrol was around. But the Warren rarely came out in the day. Hannah stopped at one of them, and the robots got out and helped her pull her bike inside. She started to look through all the cabinets to see what looked good. It was almost noon and she was starved. She quickly found what she wanted, popped it open, and began to eat. The robot's eyes all flashed red, and they all began to hide in the cabinets below. "But no one is here," said the shadow. Hannah ignored him and hid anyway. A long time passed and Hannah grew impatient. She cracked open the cabinet to see what was going on in the street. In the door, she saw a creature that was barely taller than she was, peeking from around the side. Both of them were startled and hid. Hannah realized this was not a Warren. This was a different being altogether. She slowly got out of the cabinet, and the alien slowly came out from around the door. It smiled and extended wings. It was a beautiful creature. Others came around and joined him. Hector was alarmed. He came out and stood between them. This startled them again. "Stop, Hector! They're friendly," she yelled. "We cannot be sure," said Hector, standing as tall as he could. "If you are truly the last of your kind, we cannot take these chances." "Maybe they're my last hope," she responded and walked around Hector to greet the creature. "I doubt it," said the voice. "Greetings, we are Santru. My name is Eleanor. We are scientists sent here to study your world," it said. "By the Warren. The Warren permit us to do our research. Please worry not. We come in peace. No harm will come to you." He gently grabbed her hand. "Come outside. The Warren won't be back for months." They walked outside into the street. The Santru had a large ship there, and all the creatures gathered around it to see the small human. Many of them had spent their lives studying them, but had never seen one. This was very exciting for them. "Stay here," Elenero said to her. He walked over to discuss the situation with his colleagues. "She is the last of her kind. If we leave her here, she will die or worse. The Warren will kill her." "But if we get boarded, we will forfeit our lives," said the captain. "This is our life's work. Can you say it's not worth the risk?" The captain thought for a moment. "I think I have a way." Elenero returned to her and spoke. "There are no more humans on Earth. We invite you to come with us. There is no more need to be alone. We have much to learn from you." "No, Hannah, don't do this," said the voice. Hannah turned to Hector. "What about Simon?" "Our power cells will last long after his expected lifetime," responded Hector. "We've survived this long so far." The little display screen showed a smile. The voice pleaded with her. "Hannah, I don't trust them, and if you leave, I may not be able to talk to you again." She looked back at the ship and said, "It's time I outgrew my invisible friends." Jacob's battleship was a juggernaut, bigger than all the rest. He waited for preparations while looking out the viewport. He liked watching the waves of red and orange. The ship was neither here nor there. It was in the other place in subspace. Bianca walked up behind his chair, wrapped her arm around him and whispered in his ear, "We are ready." He took a deep breath and commanded with one word, "Begin." He continued to stare out while tapping his dagger in his hand. They all had something they did to get ready. Terrence stood in front of the mirror in his quarters and admired his uniform and crown. Bianca took inventory of her weapons and sword. Olivia read Hamlet. General Carlos checked and rechecked the battle plan down to the second, but Gorky was not so eager. He worried for his daughter's safety. To him, this was insane. A moment passed and the general walked down the hall to him, placed a small object in his hand, and walked away. Gorky turned around and entered the room marked UFA. The Santru ship also entered subspace on its jump. Elenero was late to his meeting in the holograph room. This room was designed so that many attendees could come together virtually from all over space. Elenero opened and closed the door quickly. He walked to the table, bowed and said, "We have the girl. Soon we will begin the transformation. A holographic figure came to the table. Her face looked very much like Abby's. Good, she must never know that humans still exist. She turned to the other side. What is your status, General? General Carlos' face appeared. We're well underway. We'll be in frontier space within the hour. All preparations have been made. Annie? Abby turned again. How is the Chancellor? An Adlet woman appeared and said, My husband and I are alive. He will recover from his injuries. The general was shocked. He asked, What about your child? The Adlet woman touched her stomach. He is fine. Abby smiled. Good. Soon we shall fulfill the prophecy.